you're a piece of meat. You're nothing more. You have no identity. You have no name. You have no past. Everything has been erased. I was raised in a small village in Bulgaria, and after the collapse of communism, my mom and I immigrated to the US. At that time, I was 13. The first time I was able to go back to my home village was 2 years later, at the age of 15, and it was during that first visit back home that I realized something had changed. Many people had left, seeking employment abroad. Some of these young girls had not been heard from by their families, which was highly unusual. But at that time, I was 15, it was strange, it wasn't really talked about. There is this concept in the region that I come from, that once you become a prostitute, willingly or by force, you can never be a normal human being again. You are dirty, you are trash, and a lot of times your own family would disown you. It's very common that a girl who manages to escape, her traffickers and her pimps would return and rarely tell anyone that she had been sold against her will into this. I decided to go undercover because what I was hearing from the women who had managed to escape was so crazy, it was so unbelievable, that I thought the only way for me to verify this, when they talk about the red light districts, when they talk about the brothels and the sex clubs, is for me to see it with my own eyes. The challenge was being a female, because I could not pose as a client. So my only option was to pose as a trafficker, which would have taken a lot of connections and a much longer period of time to arrange, or to pose as a prostitute. Usually the first step for me is to reach out to colleagues of mine, male colleagues who might be willing to take in a camera and film some of this. And the reaction that I had from my male colleagues in Turkey was, "Are you crazy? We live here. You're dealing with the mafia. And we're not going to risk our families and our lives in order to get footage of these places." I realized that I need to go a different route. I had to find men who were regulars, who I had to explain to, "Look, I'm going to dress like a prostitute. I'm going to sit with you, but here is the story that I want you to tell the people who own this establishment. I need you to tell them, do you found me in a different neighborhood, and you are here in this brothel because you need more women. This is why I needed to go with more than just one guy." It took about 2 to 3 weeks to set this up, to find men. And all of the meetings I would schedule during the day at coffee shops or restaurants and public places. And just by talking to them, try to get as much sense of who they are, what types of jobs they do in the daytime. I know this sounds ridiculous, but trying to figure out how trustworthy they are. How can I assure for myself that some of these men that I'm going into the red light district are not going to change their mind? And while we're in there, actually reveal my true identity and say, there is a woman there sitting at this table, and what you see that looks like a cell phone is in fact a hidden camera that she's filming with. I had a wig. I had to pick out certain outfits that would be appropriate for those kinds of places. I needed to wear high heels. I just needed to have, a lot of makeup on, a certain kind of look. You try not to think. You try to think about your preparation. You try to think about the equipment and whether it's going to work. And you don't think so much about, I am so scared and I shouldn't be doing this and this is crazy. Before I went on these trips, I would meet with the former FBI agent, and he said to me, "Mimi, let's say they discover what you're doing and they take you to the back and they ask you to give someone a blowjob. What are you going to do? Or they ask you to strip, or you know that you're going to get sold and you know how quickly you will disappear. Who are you going to call? You have no backup." They're all men who purchase women for sex. They're all men who are very much aware of trafficking. So this is the strange and complex exchange, because here I am making a deal with people who do these things to these women, but I need their help. You're essentially in this high-end nightclub that's a brothel. I come in with these 5 guys, and they were actually negotiating with pimps as to prices. They were making jokes. You know, sometimes a woman would walk by and they would touch her. And in the middle of it, one of the men who knew I was a journalist, who is sitting next to me, puts his hand on my leg, and he looks at me. And there is nothing I can do about this because we're there in the basement. I have to play along. He is fully aware of the advantage that he's taking of me and the situation that I'm in, which is he knows that he has the power to go to the owner and tell the truth. There is always this talk of make sure you can control the environment that you're in. And 9 out of 10 times you have no control over the environment. You can agree to go into someone's apartment and you don't know if there are going to be 10 men waiting there or just 1 man. You end up on the 16th floor and you say, shit, how will I get out of this situation? I can't jump out of the window. How am I going to get myself home? And am I willing to die for this? One thing that very few of us talk about in this field is what it's like when you come back. Because you feel so disconnected. You feel like you're trying to bridge these 2 worlds and there is no bridge between them. It changes you dramatically. For me in particular, it's a point of no return. And you're never the same again. I met with a friend of mine after one of the trips, and he said to me, do you think maybe you over-identify with these women? And it was a very brutal question, because you know what? The answer is, yeah, I think I do. You know, the origins are similar, but this is not my story. And I made a choice to go into these places. That was a choice. That was not by force. Vika was trafficked and sold in Dubai at the age of 19. On one of my trips to Moldova, I went to have breakfast with her. It was 10 a.m. in the morning. We're sitting in this coffee shop. And Vika orders a big bottle of beer at 10 a.m. And I say, are you sure you want to do this? She said, not only am I doing this, but you're going to have the same. She starts telling me the story of how she got pregnant in Dubai and what some of the men did to her during her pregnancy and how the customers would pay double for a pregnant woman. And I made this terrible mistake. In the middle of her story, I said in Russian, I know what you mean, or I know how you feel. And she took that bottle and slammed it down the table so hard I thought it would break. She said to me, don't you ever fucking tell me that you know what it feels like, or you know what I mean, because you have no idea. And she was absolutely right. Seeing these places, smelling them, being shaken up, that's one thing. It's an important thing, but it's not the same thing. It's far from being the same thing as having 30 guys a day, or having someone cut a hole in the bed for your pregnant belly to dip in so they can have more comfortable sex with you. I don't know what that's like, and I will hopefully never know what that's like.